really, really, really critical, don't change your mind. But it's why I tell people now, don't be upset if you miss out on the first one, because the right house for you will turn up. If you're borrowing the money, get the hard landscaping done. And if there's something specifically you want, tack it on the mortgage right there and then. You want an outdoor fire, you get your outdoor fire. If you can afford to do it now,
do it at the start.
Do it right now. Because when you walk into a room, what do you touch? Light switches. What else do you look at instinctively as you reach for them? Handles and doors. And suddenly it's got brand new door handles. It's got brand new light switches, and the house is washed and clean and tidy. You know how often I go to houses and the letterbox is rubbish?
Yes.
I'm like, really? So these are simple little things, right? Simple basic repairs.
Rather than doing stage one of our, upgrade and renovation, and we'll do the spa pool and the other thing later, that never happens.
So never happens. Never ever happens. Do you know what? Designers are gonna hate me for saying this. If you have an apartment, right, and you want to renovate it, the wonderful thing I see about it is that you can do more because you don't have 3 bathrooms to do, you've got 1.
My wife's going to love this episode.
You should definitely have the $50,000 bathroom. I'm kidding.
Welcome back to Home Run. Today, Hamish Dodd. Hamish, maybe just give us a quick overview. You're such an interesting person. Can you just tell our viewers who you are and what
who I am
out of today?
Well, I'm a slightly greying interior and landscape designer. I've done a lot of bits and pieces over my time. I've done television shows, home renovation stuff, and talkback radio, and written for magazines. But at my core and my love and passion is interior and landscape design.
Fantastic.
And you've done properties yourself as well.
I have.
Talking about the property journey, maybe you could start with some of the things that to you are the real critical elements to get right when you're getting involved in property.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think it's identifying what you want, right? So I don't know. I guess I'm relating to myself going out and buying my first property. I'm an interior designer, not remarkably practical in sense. I like pretty things. So I bought the house, not the area. So I bought a Vernon Brown house. It was from the group architects from the late 30s. And they're really cool. They were a black creosote weatherboarded house and it had high windows. Funnily enough, it's the kind of house.
Sorry, we need to bring one up on screen so we can see a creosote weatherboard.
So before you had paint, or if you were less wealthy, you know what whitewashing is? It was basically like watered down white paint, which is what we emulate now with white stains. Right, so you still see the grain of the timber coming through. It's what was cost effective in the old days is now what's kind of cool, right? It's funny how that's worked. Creosote was the same thing. It's a nasty, oily byproduct thing, but was black. So the modern version would be black stain, for example.
And the ultimate would be like a burnt timber.
Yeah, the charred timber. Oh, yeah,
how good's that?
That's magnificent.
Sounds so sexy.
I've got to say, like a friend of mine who does these amazing kitchens in Boffy, by the way. They're doing a bit of a renovation, and he was showing me his weatherboard that he's got. And it's like Japanese, awesome. And it's literally like they stack them up.
Ichibara, is that what it's called? Ichibara, something like that. Yeah, we sear it. Sear the timber off with the blowtorch.
So you spotted this house.
Yeah, spotted the house. Fell in love with it, knew what it was. The agent said, I think this is an architectural house. I went, shh, don't you say that to anyone else. I knew what it was, and I got really excited, and I like everyone else, had missed out on 4 or 5 other houses that I really wanted.
Right. So hot market.
There was no miracle here where I got the first house I looked at, but it's why I tell people now, don't be upset if you miss out on the first one, because the right house for you will turn up. And that first house you buy, for whatever reason you bought it, you thought it was a good investment, worst house in the best street. Me, slightly best house in the worst street, the wrong way. But whatever you do, you're going to love it, right? It's the first time you do it. And look, I got this house, I ran to a coffee shop. I had a look at the house, I ran to this coffee shop, sat down, put a deal together, an offer, and my dad's sitting there just going, oh no. But, good on you, getting amongst it. And we bought the house, and that was it. And then then reality set in when I realized how much work said house needed. I had never thought that you might need to have someone look at the roof. That was a problem, among many others, to be fair. And you have all the trials and tribulations. I fell through the floor in the kitchen because we were renovating it, and I was half asleep one day, and I forgot that we'd ripped the floor out to fix it. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't far. It was only a short thing, but it was enough to give a man a fright.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But yeah, look, and I have all these amazing stories of that house because it's the first one, right?
Yeah.
So if you identify what you want out of the house, I wanted something to pour all of my design love into. That's why I bought that house. Some of my friends went out and bought houses based on the area. They bought close into the city. They were smarter than me. I mean, they bought these old houses like in Freeman's Bay or, right in the cusp of the city, They were $400,000.
Wow.
That's right. Insane money. You could put a marble on the floor and it'd run from one end of the house to the other. These things needed a lot of work, but they were worth it long term. You could sink the money in across the next 4 or 5 years. And I think we had a thing where we actually worked on our houses, but we could. So once you found what your desire is and what your goal is for the property, well, then you know what you're dealing with and away you trot after that.
Is that still true today, that you should,
I'm old now, so I would say, kids out there, make sure what you do is get sound advice and invest for the future. Right. Now people will go out and do it how they want anyway, right? I mean, it's like you can't tell someone young what to do.
Of course.
No one could tell me. I try and impart the advice and say, buy something you can add some value to if you're handy. If you're not, don't. Or maybe, you think you're good at painting, but you're not. So don't buy a house that you think you're going to paint yourself. There's a lot of rules and regulations.
I definitely see this in the auction room when I'm negotiating. I get to meet the people on the other side of the transaction. And it's often, it seems like, even in my lifetime, that the ethos of, get onto the property ladder with a house that needs some work and then sort of build from there is maybe not the case anymore, because I see a lot of, maybe that's related to lending or other aspects, but people are kind of stumping up as much cash as they can to get into that property, but unless they're handy,
there's no reserves.
They're not getting into the, there's no reserves.
And the houses that used to be plentiful,
they're
not handy. No. And that, as far as I see it, where the problem has arisen is the houses that we used to be able to go and buy for lesser money. The old, hey, have you got a Kiwi State house? Why'd you buy those? They had a solid roof, they had solid framing, and they had great bones. They didn't need it. You took a state house and then you put a house that was built in the same area next to it. The chimney was sagging in the house. Why? Because state houses were built like solid.
And you know what? That is actually still true. Yeah. My brother was talking to me, he's a project manager in construction, and he was saying that the amount of money and over-engineering of some of the Kāinga Ora builds is ridiculous from his perspective.
Yeah.
Like recessed smoke alarms and things that he said, like, why are they doing that? But the future will probably say the same thing about the current era of state homes.
They're going to say that they are an incredible investment, and one day, of course, those houses, and a controversial view of mine is that, when they become really high value, they should be sold, but that money should be reinvested to build more. So it's a cycle, right? The government, Kāinga Ora, becomes a property investor who buys and sells, but always provides. So they've got to provide. You can't sell them all and go, woohoo, got all this cash. You must transition them slowly. And I'm a firm believer that just like they did in the 50s, they should be spread between all the different areas, because we're all Kiwis, we're all the same. It doesn't matter how you get your house, you have a house. You deserve it, right? But the problem I see now is you can't buy the state house. And the reason for that is a lot of those houses sat on big sections. So before, it was a shitty old house with a grapefruit tree down the back, Tacoma hedge growing up the side of it, maybe one of those metal clotheslines going with a little tiny concrete path. Now you can put 6 houses on that. So the land value of that property has gone, what was and what should be now a $500,000 property, a cheapie because it needs a lot of work and it's ugly as sin. That's now a $2.5 million property, right?
You're talking about Auckland though. What about some of the regions? Or do you think it's all over the country?
Well, no, I think it's everywhere. My magnificent, beautiful wife, who I love dearly, is from Nelson. Wonderful place. If you ever get to go, if you have
highest sunshine hours in the country, right?
Highest sunshine hours, amazing. Her mother lives in Stoke, got a big, normal section, house with the backyard and bits and garage and bits and pieces. I mean, those are getting sought after because in Nelson and Stoke, which is the area I know of Nelson, it's happening. What happens in Auckland tends to maybe happen a couple of years later in other places. But it happens across the country. And so if it hasn't happened to you, it'll be coming to a town near you soon.
Go and buy a state house.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you can, they're great houses.
Yeah.
But if you want
to through that, you kind of summarized what made them great houses, but you go into a little bit more detail about what makes them great houses and then maybe expand those to other types of property.
Yeah, so the old state house had hardwood floors in them that were good quality, so you could lift the carpet, you could sand the floors, the most cost-effective thing you could possibly do to flooring in a house, and beautiful native timber floors.
Put one of those in now, right?
Yeah, well,
exactly.
Yeah, the way the trusses were set up across the main living areas meant that some of the walls were non-load bearing inside it. So, of course, houses in the 50s had kitchen, dining, living, typically like a bit of an L shape, and that's when we hid the kitchen. I mean, after I've cooked, you probably still want to go back to that model. It's a little messy, but you want to open it up, and so you could take walls out relatively easily. But I've got to emphasize too, in my heyday a while ago, there's a lot of work you can do yourself. A lot of that's gone now. The home handyman can't just rock in there and do a little bit of like electrical work and just make the electrician Brian to sign it off, or building work. You need to have registered builders,
and you definitely want to know if it's a load-bearing wall before you start taking it out.
Yes, you do.
I was going to say because you need a consent, but also it would be quite terrible if it fell down.
This is it. But you see the consenting process.
Exactly.
Yeah, everything's a bit different now. There are more requirements, and with good reason, because some crazy things happen. But you could get stuck in and you could do things. You could maybe, if you got a building mate, you come around and the two of you could take down the wall and reframe something up differently and fix things and paint things and sand them and you could do work on the house.
You still can.
You can, but the stock of houses that you can get has dwindled because a lot of the ones that have been bought up, normally with the developer, they removes the house now to build a lot. So, I mean, in my day, the most you got was you renovated the old one, right? And then you built a new one on the back.
Yeah.
But you can't really do that easily if you want to put like 4 or 5, 2 or 3 story houses, right? It's changed the nature of it, which is the unitary plan that changed
It's not going to work with high density.
No, it's not going to work with high density. So I guess if you are going to do it, you're probably going to do it out of town where people are buying and then putting another house on the back and building something there themselves. Yeah, that could be done. So transitioning through now, what are the old houses what are the new old houses? So,
what are the new old houses?
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think that it's a lot of the stuff that was done in the 90s, right? They're the new older houses. So
but now let's go to the 90s.
Yeah.
What was typical in the 90s and what's a good one and what's...
well, that's the case. That's where one has a building inspection because the 90s was rife with issues, particularly the leaky stuff. I mean, a lot of it's been addressed now. But I know people who have bought slightly larger apartments that were done around the city, not the tiny shoe boxes, but they've found the ones that were up, particularly anywhere around where the city rail link is possibly going to go.
Yeah.
More those, I don't know, how would you describe them? Character apartments. I mean, buy those. They were done in the 90s. They've got some hideous looking handrails in them and light fittings with fins coming off them and stuff. Terrible looking things. And they were all painted in a color that I was always told would never date. I call it nicotine yellow.
Oh,
yeah.
Exactly.
Nicotine yellow. It's neutral. It's never going to date. Of course it's going to date. If you open a neutral section in a paint catalog, it's the biggest one, right? So there's plenty of options and it's going to gradiate out and change, But nicotine yellow, that definitely dated and we moved on to, many other neutrals. And then there's neutrals with a green base or a gray base or a brown base, depending on what the mood is at the time, when you're painting.
We do need to talk about colour in New Zealand, but before we get there, back to these apartments.
Yeah,
so it doesn't just have to be apartments, but you're saying what's the new?
Yeah, so it's those, or what have I been helping people on? Less villas and bungalows. I mean, most of them are getting done, or the people who own them have bought them and can't afford to do them up. That's why you drive to Ponsonby. Sorry if you live in Ponsonby. I'm not bagging Ponsonby or Grey Lynn or anything. But if you drive down the streets, tell me how many of them are fully renovated. Like maybe 15% at a super modern, level.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair enough because it's expensive to renovate. So some of them will have been done 10 years ago and styles changed slightly. We now lift houses up and the value's gone up. So you might put a little parking garage underneath, or I don't know.
But I mean, when they're done, and it must be eye-wateringly expensive to do it so well.
They're millions.
Double glazed, everything's been done, but all beautifully. They are amazing.
It's the Côte d'Azur, right? It's what we all want. I mean, everyone grew up loving villas and bungalows. It's just, and people can maybe complain that they're not as readily available now, but that's life. If you can afford to own one and get hold of one, that's amazing, and all the power to you. However, what are the new cool houses? The 90s stuff to me is the more smaller stuff. It's going to be terraced houses you get hold of that need to be done, or apartments or things like that. And I'm talking about the character stuff that's a bit more interesting. House-wise, it's the stuff from the 70s and the 80s that I love. It's the clinker brick house. It's funny, friends bought a clinker brick house. You know what clinker brick is?
Is it?
That brown brick, the stuff that if you rub up against it, you leave half your body behind. Yeah, that stuff. As a kid, when you played at the clinker brick house from my vintage, you don't want to run into the wall, a little bit of wrestling, and it's like, bang, terrible. Now, what people try and do with clinker brick is they try and knock all the clinker off the outside of it, and then they pay a solid plasterer to come in and plaster it. And then what you've got is a house that is still a 1970s house that looks nothing like a 1970s house, and you've spent a lot of money on to achieve very little, in my opinion.
And now it's a plaster.
Now it's a plaster house.
Even though it's over brick.
Even though it's over
I know
brick.
the real estate agents out there, and you've had this before, where it's a beautiful brick home that's been plastered, and people are going, but it's plastered.
But it's plastered. But it's solid masonry, don't worry, but it's plastered.
Yeah.
But to me, they're great. So what we did is we left the clinker brick. Now, it always transitioned to the inside of the house. No one wants a brick oven tower in the middle of their kitchen anymore. So it disappeared. We kept two walls, which became, and I'm going to use the term, feature walls. Yes, love them, right? Feature wall, bring it back, baby. Terrible. And then on the exterior, where it wasn't clinker brick, it was like a Hardy's weatherboard sort of product, which was not great. That got ripped off, and vertical Abodo, which is a great product, or vertical cedar or something like that, that was reinstated and stained black. So suddenly what you had was this really cool earthy brown brick with this browny black stained timber. Suddenly it felt very natural feeling, and it looked hot. So we didn't fight it. We reduced it and we embraced what it is. Now when people walk past that house, they go, oh, that's a really mint 70s house. But
we've got to bring that up.
It's like a 70s muscle car, right?
Yeah.
You don't really want the one with the original crappy brakes. You want the one with the nice woodwood mint stuff. It's been upgraded. Resto mod. There we go. Let's take a car term and put it in the house. Yeah. Let's take the old look. Let's stay sympathetic to it because we all love that. But let's make it modern. Let's put a new kitchen in. You want decent size, decent bathrooms. You don't want pelmets, although they're starting to come back a bit, running around the walls. Yeah, you want to bring it kicking and screaming into the modern era, but yeah, that's a good house.
The aesthetics stay the same.
The aesthetics, you're staying true to the original nature of what the house is. And
what do you do with that window joinery? It's like that brown,
the bronze.
Aluminium.
Well, the bronze was the original anodized stuff, and it's all garbage now. You can't even get the parts to fix it. The rollers in it, they're terrible. It's single glaze.
If it's in there, it's
rip it out and put in new double glazing. That's all part of bringing it kicking and screaming. Yeah. However, you might go with a color like lignite or something like that, which is that bronzy, to pay a bit of an homage to the 70s.
To the OG.
Yeah, I mean, you could just do it in black if you wanted to. It's still going to work with the brick because it's brown brick.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of things. They have dechromatic roofs on them. You can still buy dechromatic roofs. In fact, you can get them finished. That's the one that looks like it's got little black grit.
It's like a faux tile almost.
Yeah, it's a faux tile. They were little pressed metal sheets. You understand what we're talking about with that? Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Horrible, right?
We will put up some imagery so people can see the stuff.
we'll put it
It's like got a pebble coating on it.
It does. Yeah. And do you know what? They actually suit the area of the house. And the reason most people didn't like them is Kiwis, we were ramblers. It's like, let's get up there and let's get on that roof, you know? And we all knew how to walk on a concrete roof tile. Actually walk, you know? We know how to walk on a corrugated iron roof. We? Grew up with that. Don't try this at home, kids. You want those Commando M sneakers like the roofers used to wear. They gripped it, right?
I do. I walked a lot on a corrugated iron roof. I helped my parents paint that when I was a young kid, and I remember to stand on the nails.
Stand on the nails.
I'm not sure what to do on a tile roof if I'm honest.
Tile roof, well, you want to walk in the center bit so as you don't crush it and break it is the key.
And if it's a dechromatic,
you don't want to walk on the roof really because they're really thin, lightweight tiles and you crush them.
Yeah.
And so you need to know. So what people that go up there and walk on their roof and they complain about them, and they break down over time. And you find the grit in the spouting and stuff like that. But you can get them recoated,
and extend their life.
Get them, and they're fine, and you can still buy them, and they're great. Or you can put a shingle roof up, something that's sympathetic to the era. Or, you know what, go with good old New Zealand corrugate if that's what you need to do, or long run of some description. Especially if you've got a flatter roof, you got to watch what your profiles are you use because they all go down to different degrees. And so you've got to use the one you're allowed to use. Often that actually means packing up the roof fractionally around the fascia and barges and lifting it to get a bit more fall. So you end up with slightly bigger flashings, but that's incidental. Your roofing company will advise you on that. Yeah,
a lot to take in.
No, this is good. This is good. I've got the Hamish playbook to a 1970s.
Yeah, we could talk for days. Yeah, you got the 70s, but why a 70s house? Typically, they had 3 bedrooms.
Yeah.
That's good. Typically, the ensuite had kicked in, right? So you've got an ensuite off your master, so you're not trying to put one in.
Yeah.
They had wardrobes. Novel.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it, right? They had decent sized wardrobes for the first time. You had a double slider. It was a horrible brown kind of door. You'll remember it, you know. They really weren't deep enough, but they were there. Sometimes they had those separate little cupboards up the top. So you've got things that are very family friendly. Plus, it was open plan living was kicking in. So you had big lounges. Some of them got rumpus rooms. This is good if you want a family. They had a front yard that felt more park-like in its layout, which was always lovely. And they had a backyard that was normally secured by a fence.
Yeah.
So that's good if you've got a dog or small children. You have a bit of a yard out the back. They work for families. The great thing about them is they have not got out of control price-wise because they're not on subdividable sections, most of them.
Yeah.
Because we'd shrunk the size of the land then compared to the house already. So to make them viable, you'd have to knock the house down. Don't get me wrong, that will happen. All right, it will happen, but it's not at the moment. So therefore, you can pay, and you're going to pay good money for them because houses in New Zealand, the whole country, are expensive, sure. But are they? You know, you can still hunt out a pretty cool house for $1.2 million. It's going to take some work. You're going to have to fix it up, but it's there. Keep looking. And so they work as houses. And the other thing is they're actually cool at the moment. You know, that 70s vibe, that 80s vibe, that's cool. I like those houses. People tend to like the houses they kind of grew up in. They have a nostalgia to them, you know. Oh, look, kids, this is the street Dad grew up on. Children
See, I still like those.
Oh, man, not again, Dad. We're not doing the tour of the old neighborhood, are we? Yep, that's the park I played in, and that's the bench that I sat on, and, and I walked to school, kids. Yeah, the good old days.
Can't wait to torture my kids with
there's
that.
very
It's
few
great.
of them now in Auckland, though, aren't they? Like
What, decent 70s and 80s houses? It depends where you look. So you've got to think about what the suburbs were that
Had big growth.
had big growth. Recently I was looking at how people purchase some houses to renovate, and we were out in Pahurihuri, out by Papakura. And I mean, I grew up. That was my OG hood.
Your hood.
I was a local. I was a little kid around there. Highly nostalgic for me. Big houses, big wide roads, big driveways, normally good garages, interesting architecture. No two houses are the same in the street, right?
Yeah.
Everyone got an architect and they built their house and that was it. Now we get streets built by the one company. They're all variances of, but they're all built within a year, so they're all similar in their design and their color wise, right? That'll change over time as people modernize and paint in the years to come. But that's a great area if you want to go and find them. No, not a bad area. There's no rental properties really available in Pāhuehiri, which interested me. And that was, I was told, was because it's got good footpaths. It's easy to get to the schools. Families like them. So people buy them to live in them, not to rent them out. And I was like, well, there's a missed opportunity for someone. Pity I'm not as wealthy as I'd like to be, and then I'd be, get stuck in. But they're there. Mairangi Bay, plenty of places on the shore will like it. There's, I don't know, Manurewa, Manukau, I should say that correctly. Do better, Hamish. Around the Heights. I'm trying to picture in my head where all the areas are, but there's lots of them. And the houses are there, and they all vary in value. Obviously, Pakuranga, out through Howick, Mellons Bay. We're talking about areas that have quite different value ratios, but they're there. There's something for everyone. You want a family home that you can easily renovate without having to add bedrooms to. They're your houses. And like it or not, that's what you've got. You're a person who wants a bigger home that you can add value to yourself. Those houses are wins, in my opinion.
They are the new cool.
They're the new cool. Yeah, you could.
So with that in mind, like, how do you? Obviously, you being an interior designer and having that sort of, the idea that you look at it and you go, "There's potential there."
Yeah.
But for an average Joe, like when they go and see this, they're probably looking at those brown sliding cupboards and like, "Wow,
they get scared.
This is bad. I don't want to get involved in that." But what should be sort of like the nuggets of things that they should look for and go, there's potential there.
Do you know what? Designers are gonna hate me for saying this. Hit Pinterest and literally look up like 70s and 80s houses that have been renovated sympathetically and find them. I don't. Pinterest scares me. I have Pinterest, but it's for like old cars and stuff. But whenever a client says to me, I've got a Pinterest board, I'm like, oh no. Because Pinterest is like watching anything online. It's a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So you start here and you finish here. And I had a client once said to me, he said, Hamish, I really want that Greek Mediterranean look. And the pictures we started with, they were in Greece and they were white houses with blue roofs and that sort of thing. By the end of it, we were in Istanbul, Turkey. And I was like, these are quite different looking houses here. Suddenly we had completely different colors, the white and the blue long gone. The only similarity was that I could see was that they were maybe plastered right? I was like, I can see how we've got here through the transition. Basically he had...
figure out, was he more Istanbul?
It was really funny. And I was like, but what had happened was Pinterest had made suggestions and led him on a random path. So it was my job to fix it. But if you want some ideas about what you can do with houses, jump on there. Look up black cedar houses and then understand what you're looking at. If you are thinking about buying a house and you're going to stay in it, you're renovating it to live in it, always renovate it to if you're thinking of living in it for longer than you think you're going to live in it. The amount of people that say to me, we're only going to be here for 3 years. I'm like, no, you won't. You'll be here 8 years because you've got kids. It'll become easy. It'll be comfortable. You'll know the place. Your kids will love it. And you're going to be here a while plus.
Transacting real estate in New Zealand is expensive.
Yes. So if you think you're going to stay, you're not doing it to move on, then maybe make sure you invest in the quality. Maybe it's the point where you ring a designer and say, hey, I'm really thinking about this house. Would you come and cast your eyes over it? I mean, it's going to cost you, $500 to have someone to come and have a look over it, throw you a couple of ideas and maybe send you some pictures and giving you the right direction to have a look. And
what a wise use.
Well, you're spending a lot of money on your house. It's why people shy away. They go, oh, what do you mean it was $750 to get a building report? I'm like, are you kidding? You're about to spend $900,000 buying a pile of junk that you want to turn into something beautiful. And you're worried about spending that. No. You should look into it. And if you're in love with the property and you want to work out how it's going to fit for you in your future, then pay a few experts to come by and actually take a look at it. And maybe that's the spark that you need to start the journey. Buy into it. Have fun. That's the other thing. Renovating is exciting. Buying a house is exciting. Enjoy the process. Buying a house, renovating a house, I don't know, changing the color on your front door. It's fun. You should enjoy it. You know, people always say things to me like, oh, you're lucky to survive the marriage. You know, the marriage survived when you renovated or you built. Yeah, sure. But I found the secret to that is work as a team to achieve the goal of what you want the place to look at.
Yeah.
Spend the time doing the legwork together to make sure you're all on the same page. And when you push the go button, short of something really, really, really critical, don't change your mind. It's the changing of the mind that is the problem. It's the let's put another window in there, and then they get a bill for $4,500 putting a tiny window, and they're like, why? Well, because the window you wanted in was structural. We had to get it engineering checked. We had to buy the window. We had to pull apart what we'd finished, put it back together. We had the painters back.
Yeah.
And by the way, there was an electrical wire running through, so we had to get the Sparky in to rerun the electrical through that piece. And then they look at you and they go, oh, if I'd known that, I would have said no. And it's like, so be planned from the beginning. There's no problem.
Yeah.
It's a big way to save.
What are the ways to, measure? Well, I think dressmakers might measure 3 times, cut once.
Yeah.
What's the
same principle?
Yeah. But how do you use that principle as, let's say, because I'm not a builder or a designer and I'm approaching a renovation, how do I actually do that, in partnership to measure 3 times? Well,
I guess it's finding out what you each like. So it's doing it together. It's quite funny how often, one person in a relationship might turn up and say, hey, so what I'm thinking, I'm like, like, what are you guys thinking? It's not your house. It's not your house. It's both of your home. And if you can get that sorted in your head, that it's like, oh, I've come up with a great idea. Wouldn't it be cool to put a new deck around the back and maybe have the outline curved and have some rock coming into it? Because it's an 80s house and I want to use that big wide deck that they didn't use in the 80s, but that looks hot. But if I transition it in and bring some rock in and then maybe some planting that sort of softens the edge of that, it's got a nice feel. That would be great. Maybe we could do that, Hamish, right? Before that, it's like, hey, so I've had an idea for the house. Can we have a yarn about it? Yeah. What are you thinking? Well, what I'm thinking is having this curved edge, blah, blah, blah. Okay. What's that look like? Oh, look, I found some photos. Oh, that's great. Or, man, I'm a straight line person. I know, but maybe since the house is straight line, we could branch out into curve here. Okay, that's the direction we'll go. And then you get the price back, curving the edge of a deck like that, by the way, astronomical. Requires heaps of extra framing underneath. Yeah. When we're doing that for a client, I never tell them that it's going to cost a bomb. They always back out early. No, make them committed. Because it always looks amazing, right? I mean, they always at the end, they go, that looks really cool. But that costs a lot more as the builder. I'm like, I know, but it's cool, right? Because you've done it and things are never as cheap as they are at doing it at the time.
Yeah.
Right? That would be my piece of advice. Not so much on the inside, but on the outside, if you're borrowing the money, get the hard landscaping done. And if there's something specifically you want, tack it on the mortgage right there and then. You want an outdoor fire, you get your outdoor fire. If someone tells you, and later on we're going to put an outdoor fire here, and over there is where the spa pool's going to be, nah, never coming. Never does. Why? Because you start paying the blimmin' mortgage. There's never any cheddar to save up for that. And then the kids, Rick needs braces.
Adds up.
Oh, there goes my spa pool. Or the car breaks down. Yeah, I mean, just life. It happens to everyone, right? It really does.
And any of those kind of, those kind of investments, like the cost will diminish over time when you're looking at how beautiful it looks. Anyway,
yes, it does.
To a degree.
10 years later, it's cheap. You go, wow, you put your outdoor fire in for $2,000. Sure, they're like 14 now. Yeah, good times. And that is something that the last place that I built for myself, my wife and I were on the same page. We built the house out of Lego one night sitting in bed because that was hilarious. We outbuilt it. It was terrible. I thought I'd do better too, but I didn't. It was all made out of mismatched colors, but we got the shape of it. We had fun. It was entertaining to do something together. We made the process fun.
Did you take a picture of it?
of the Lego
house?
Unfortunately for you, no.
I wish you did.
Yeah, I know. Well, actually, I'll tell you what, I'll ask my wife. She seems to be the one who doesn't clear caches of stuff and things. If I can find it, well, everyone will know because it'll be cut to the photo and we can all laugh. So I'll give you
inspiration. Someone will put that up and go, right, okay, I'm going to design my house out of Legos.
I don't know that I did, but she may have. Camera phones, ideal. So we did things like that, and we played with it, and we talked to people. We knew what we were on the same page the whole way through.
Yeah,
and I wanted this big timber deck out the back with big built-in seating around it that she could sunbathe on, and there's going to be an outdoor fireplace. And well, what do you know? The place was expensive to build, and like everyone, you've got champagne taste on a beer budget. You know, maybe even cheap rum budget. I don't know. It was not flash at the end. You know, you're going, wow, this adds up. You know. But we punched through with what we knew we could do, we needed to do now, or we never would. And I'm so grateful because everyone loves sitting at the outdoor fire. I got a more cost-effective precast thing that's stacked in place. And I think it was meant to be plastered, so it all looks very block-likey. And it's all stacked and it's got moss growing on it. And everyone's like, "Why didn't you plaster it?" And I'm like, "Well," I said, "I wanted it to resemble the old fireplace that you see in a farm paddock when you drive past, where the whole rest of the house is rotted away and there's just the chimney sitting there. Yeah. That's what that looks like."
That's cool.
And they stare at me, and some people go politely, "Oh yeah," and other people go, "What?" And I'm like, yeah. For 4 years, we had a white picket gate with 2 posts on either side of it, way out in the middle of the back of the paddock. Like, because it's 3 acres and it's just a block of semi-flat land, rolls a little bit. And everyone would laugh. The locals would take photos of it.
Why do you have
because I was going to grow a hedge on either side of it, and I wanted it to look like it was the old front gate to
so it's like
an old house that is long gone, and behind it, the orchard. So the hedge was on either side of it. It just took time for the hedge to grow. They were twigs. I was poor, very poor at that point. I was lucky I was allowed to buy the $1.50 plants to go when you need 300 of them. They start to add up.
Time is your friend with that stuff. Isn't it amazing when you come back?
And they're growing. Yeah, I tell you what, that I do have a photo of, so that'll be a piece of cake, right? I mean, I've got a photo of that somewhere. And then I planted 2 in the area. It's at the southern end of Lake Taupo, and there are a lot of poplars that grow around them. You know, the tall ones that change colour. A bit like Arrowtown, but not quite. There's not enough of the cold snap to get the colour to quite hang on them, but they're beautiful. And I planted them, so it looks like there was once a house there.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, and now it has like lemon tree behind it and stuff, which is stupid because it's so far to walk to get a lemon.
We're going back to the idea.
Or to water it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fireplace.
So going back to the fireplace, like it's quite a symbolic thing, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
For like, it has a lot of emotional meaning because your psyche is always around, you sit around the fire.
Yeah.
And that's where sort of you spend most of your sort of like...
Us adults socialized out there with kids growing up. Now my son's 18. We go down. They decide they want to do the great walks of the region, him and 2 of his mates. And I'm like, I'm going to be, I'm too old for this. And I hear that, it's like, "Dad, can we go and sit out by the fire? Like you didn't have a beer." I'm like, "Well, that's what it's for. And you're 18. Go for gold. Have a great time, son." And now him and his mates, I hear them out there talking. And I was like, that's me and my mates. Yeah. That's cool. So you kind of build like this little legacy thing with it. But I mean, we're talking about a $3,000 fireplace. Probably by the time I got some help to put it together and got it freighted down there, it was not an astronomical sum to have. And because I didn't plaster it, I saved even more money. I made up that whole story just because I'm a cheapskate. But it's there. But isn't it funny that this thing, rather than the giant expansive windows I put in to see the view, that's the thing that people love. That's the thing that people talk about.
And it's amazing because we as a business shoot a lot of houses.
Sure.
And we don't see that much of those fireplaces, the outdoor fireplaces.
No, people don't spend money on them.
It's amazing to look at. And I still wonder why people don't really consider it.
Oh, it's so I've been helping a lovely young lady out there try and find her first home. Yeah. She's done great legwork. I'm really impressed. Traveled big distances really to always go down and have a look. walking the beat, finds houses. What do you think of this one? I'm like, this is a good house. I prefer this house. I'm like, it's fine. I'm not telling her what I would buy. I'm just answering and offering advice. That's my job, not to say, you need to buy that house. It's not my house, it's her house. So whatever she loves about it is what's important, right? Yeah. And we've been looking around, and there's this great house, and it's got like a small office / guest room that goes onto the deck, and it's really sunny, and it was well staged, so you could really get a sense of what it could be. It was a 3-bedroom house. This was the 3rd bedroom, and the other 2 had big wardrobes in them, which was really good. And this one had none. She's like, well, it doesn't have any wardrobes. I'm like, well, are you having you and 2 flatmates? No, just 1 flatmate. I said, well, what's this room going to be? Oh, this will be the guest room. No, it doesn't have wardrobes. We just get like a chest, big table or something that people can put their suitcases on. You build this room to be good for guests. So hooks on the wall for people to hang things up on. They're not going to come with 50 jackets like we all store. You know, the wardrobe where you go, why do I own so many heavy jackets?
Haven't seen this one.
I don't need these ones. Oh, I haven't worn that one in 8 years. Oh, we can't even fit it anymore. You know, so you're going to build that room. And I was like, and then it goes out onto this deck. And she goes, yeah, there's houses out there. And I'm like, yeah. But that house that's next door, if you look at the fence height, we're going to plant a pleached Mexican alder hedge. That's where you have the trunks and the hedges clipped up the top. So we put that in there. She goes, will that have a problem with the neighbours? And I went, no, you can grow a hedge pretty much to what you want, right? You're not building a fence that high. Plus I said, it'll actually look nice for them. They won't look at your house. You won't look at theirs. Right? Have a chat to them. Always talk to your neighbours. So this is my concept. I'm thinking, you know, maybe 1.2 of hedge above the fence height. I'm sure they'll probably go, okay, that's fine. So we're going to put that in. So I said, imagine when you're lying in bed here, you're not really looking at the house. You're seeing this clipped hedge and you're looking out over the top of it at the sky and at the clouds. And this is a nice spot. And she goes, oh, there's this yucky trellis down the side. I used the correct word there too, yucky. And I was like, it is yucky. I'll give you that. But at the moment, when you buy the house, it's absolutely fine, right? Let's not pick things apart like trellis, and you know, you can deal with that in the future. Remember, this is where you're going to add value is into the landscape. But at the moment, the house is great. It's solid. It ticks all the boxes. It works. And you can do some stuff yourself in the future. This is a win, right? Okay, what would you do here? And I went, how much money have I got? You know, like, am I telling you what you really could do here? And she goes, yeah, what would you do here? And I said, outdoor fireplace that runs through this section. I said, I'd do it probably in brick and then I'd bag it. So bagged brick is, if you plaster brick, it goes completely smooth, right? Bagging is plaster, but you literally use the cement bag folded up like a pom-pom in your hand. You put the plaster on, you rub it around on the bricks so it fills in parts of the brickwork, and then you can lime wash it afterwards. So it gives you an older world look. A
bit of a texture, right?
Yeah, and so like to plaster a house, it's been a long time since I've done one, so forgive me, plasterers out there, because this is going to be way off. But last time I got one done, it was an example of $40 an hour to pay the plasterer. We're laughing at that now. I'm sure they're more like 80, but I'm talking about the early 2000s. Yeah. So $40 an hour for plastering, or it was $40 a square meter. Hang on, it was $40 a square, something like that. It's one of the two ways around. Vastly different, yet when they're painted, they kind of look very similar. And they're both really cool. So you could bag this wall. It's a cost-effective thing. If you can't afford bricks, you could use concrete blocks, get a similar effect, and build your fireplace into that. That'll then shelter you on that side of it. It'll look good. Put a table up on this deck. I was like, yeah, granted, at the same time, the deck would get relaid. Big outdoor table. You'll entertain here. It's right next to the kitchen, which is that other set of French doors. She went, oh, that'd be lovely, wouldn't it? I went, oh, that'd be really nice. And she goes, what else would you do? And I went, well, if we have some cash, we'll put like a Louvertex system over here. That'll be in white, so it ties to the nature of the old villa. And open and close it, great. Let light in, block it off, and maybe some clear plastic screening, which I hate, but you need it in New Zealand because we have wind and rain, right? And you don't know when that wind and rain is coming. So have the ability to close it off should you want to, so you can just have it as this extra room. okay, that works. And should I do that now? And I'm like, if you can afford to do it now,
do it at the start.
Do it right now.
Before the mortgage kicks in.
Boy, just get in there and borrow it and have it all finished. Any little thing. Because to build that, she's like, how much? I went, I don't know. We need to get prices in from people to build it. But here's the big thing that I find people always scared about is people in their minds think, oh, outdoor fire, that's expensive.
Yeah.
I'm like, have you got a price? No.
Out of interest, what does it clock in at for something like that?
An outdoor wood burning fire, if you're allowed to put one in, probably they're a little bit more free and easy.
I think you can get it consented if it's for cooking purposes.
Yeah.
So you got to put
that's why you have a grill on it.
Exactly. You always take that out afterwards.
Exactly. I have a slide in and out grill.
And how good to be able to cook on it?
Well, yes,
maybe
you don't want those fatty juices all over your fireplace.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you're a little bit OCD, then you're fine. You can scrub afterwards. But yeah, it's fine. A good point. You can do that. A gas one. I mean, I don't know, $7,000-8,000 by the time you do all that sort of stuff. If you said I'm going to spend no more than $18,000, put a figure on it. It's got to be realistic. Get some prices and get someone to have a look at it and see what you're going to do. You don't need to build it out of block. You could build it out of timber. You could get it plastered afterwards. Find out what's on the market. You can actually get wood burning fires that are the mobile ones that are all the stainless steel things. Yeah. They look really cool.
What about a pizza oven?
Pizza oven's great. They're very heavy. So I'm just going to warn people there. So if you're putting it on a deck, you really need posts that are going to go through to the ground. They weigh a lot. Pizza ovens are great. You got to love your pizza, right? That's my thing. I mean, I say have both.
One's chill.
Yeah.
But I think here's the key. If I remember where that started, is actually don't plan to stage the project. So if you've got the property and you plan to do it, rather than doing stage one of our, upgrade and renovation, and we'll do the spa pool and the other thing later, that never happens.
So never happens. All at once. Never, ever happens. And I know this because it happened to me. So I always wanted a wood-fired hot tub, right? Fire over here, wood-fired hot tubs going over there. Things? No, I don't have a wood-fired hot tub. It's a bone of contention. And I'm not allowed one. Yeah. So not yet.
Not yet.
No.
Sell one of your toys for that.
Well, yes, which is fair, right? You can't have everything in life. I think that's what people always forget. So you don't ever need to have all of it.
You can almost certainly have what you want, but you certainly can't have everything.
You can't have it. Well said. That is exactly right. Wood-fired hot tub would be great. And I planned it. And I have a freestanding Louvertech system with concrete underneath it, which I did do, which was going to be used as like an outdoor eating area that's slightly remote, but then would have the wood-fired hot tub underneath it. But it doesn't have a wood-fired hot tub. It has my tractor parked underneath. My tractor has a very expensive roof over the top of it, and it's a very shitty old tractor. My wife's not impressed with that one. Cut this one out of it. Don't put the tractor talk in. She said, sell it. And I said, why? It's only worth $1,000. And then she realized that we had spent slightly more on that, fixing it and shipping it down there. And I couldn't use it. It was not strong enough to put the boat in the water. It could pull it, but the brakes are terrible on them.
Oh.
Yeah. So that was because I had this romantic notion where when I was little down there, all the old guys had their old red Fergies put in them, but they were putting in single engine trailers. Yeah, well, yes, that would have been great too. And you've pointed out something that's completely valid that was also pointed out to me.
Sorry, I can see this is a sore spot.
It
should have the hot tub in it.
It should have the hot tub.
Sorry, I mentioned it.
Get rid of the Fergie. Get rid of the Fergie and put the hot tub there. But that is a clear case of where I almost completed everything, but I didn't. And I still don't have it 8 years later. And I probably never will put it in. Unless there is, I don't really need it. There's some hot pools in Takanu. So we go there. It was kind of like a nice.
Yeah.
But if we had it there, we would have had years of loving it. The fire, my goodness, if I hadn't put that in, well, sorry.
You would have robbed yourself of
if
something.
we had it put it in, all the memories that I've got of us sitting out by the table, even when the fire's not actually keeping you warm, because it's pretty cold on the plateau at 1 o'clock in the morning when you're sitting there shaking, having that one last drink with your old mate that you haven't seen in years. They're great memories, and I love them. So that's my thing. Do it when you want to do it. If you can, stretch that a little bit further. And you won't regret it.
Yeah, just get it done. Get out of the way.
Get it done and get it finished, and then enjoy.
Yeah.
But yeah, renovating a building should be completely pleasurable.
I loved the idea of the new cool. And so we talked about the 70s and 80s era freestanding.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned about 90s, maybe like character apartments, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What's your the Hamish recipe for success with these?
The apartments that were done in the 90s, the bigger ones, the more character oriented.
A conversion of older buildings?
Correct. Yeah. They were always a conversion of an old warehousey sort of area or something like that. The purpose-built ones were built much smaller. And I would be keen to actually go in and see what I could do with one of those with modern design systems.
I've got one for you.
Have you?
The Carlisle. And I'll seriously, we can talk about it now if it's interesting. So we've got this apartment. It was built by Cruxenia, its very first. It's on the corner of Emberley Place. It's literally called the Carlisle Building.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. That was a wool warehouse on the foreshore when it was originally built.
Wow.
I believe it's very turn of the 19th century, like a very early 1900s.
Yeah.
And I believe the date, I think it might have been a 94 or 97 CCC.
Yep.
And it's really interesting inside because none of the apartments are the same. There's some common elements, but he had to rig this thing in a way to make it work.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I believe it's got like some cowrie in it, and the hardwood floors, I mean, gosh, they've got character.
Yeah.
Huge big wooden beams in it. I believe it's masonry behind some of the walls and brick in some other places.
Yep.
I've not pulled the walls off to look inside mine. But anyway, that apartment, like we've done some things to it when we first bought it, and it's probably going to have a birthday at some point. So I'm real curious, like what are the things that you consider when you look into an apartment like that? I mean, you can come and have a look at it.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to. Look, I mean, I think you can do a lot with the kitchen. So here's the thing. The bigger the house, right, the more expense there is when you renovate, right? So if you've got a main bathroom.
My bathroom, I don't know how much you think for a bathroom, right? This is not a large bathroom.
No.
There. And we did not even get quotes that included materials. It was still upon us to go and select the materials, which is smart if you're a person doing a bathroom thing, because there's a big scope there, I'm sure.
There is.
My wife has expensive taste. It's good taste, but it's expensive. Like 50 grand.
Yeah.
What?
I'm like, this is a tiny bathroom.
Yeah.
I'm sure it should be cheaper than that.
Gold sink in it.
No, so get this. That was one quote. No, it doesn't include the materials. So that was from one. Another one, I think, came in at like 45. I was like, oh my gosh, maybe they weren't just like not wanting the business. I did not expect it to be that expensive.
No, I mean, some of it's going to be the access issues that you start getting into when you move into doing apartments with parking and vehicles and moving things in and out.
I've got a road. Get this. This is how I love this apartment, because we have a door, a big wide door to the street. So it's almost like a townhouse. It goes up over 3 levels.
Yeah.
And we can park outside the apartment. We've got a car park in the basement, but you can literally just open this big door and go in. It used to have Lisa Hoskin, manufacturing jeweler. And my wife, when we bought it, she loved it. She spotted it was on a commercial property sales website because it used to have a jewelry shop in it.
Oh. Wow.
So yeah, anyway, we digress.
That's actually a good thing to think about when you're looking for the unique kind of property, is to look in the commercial, not always look in the residential.
Totally.
Good idea. The apartment, that is expensive. However, what you can do, if you have an apartment, right, and you want to renovate it, the wonderful thing I see about it is that you can do more and have something kind of cool, because you don't have 3 bathrooms to do, you've got 1.
Yeah.
So if you're of that mode where you're like, I'd really like this amazing tile, you can do it. You can stretch for it, right? That's why I always loved designing
I love this episode.
courtyard gardens. You should definitely have the $50,000 bathroom. I'm kidding.
No, I mean, it's going to happen.
You should just get Hamish to come and have
Courtyard gardens they were so much fun to design, because you could have like amazing stone as the slabs that go down in it Well, that's because you're only buying 8 square meters.
Yeah.
Whereas I couldn't use that stone to do, a 200 square meter, area rambling around some giant country house, because someone's going to go, sorry, that's how much I paid for the entire property, right? Like it's economy of scale, right? It's going to cost you more if you've got to start shrinking things. Yeah, sure. If you're buying more, you get a better price. But the reality is you only need this much. So you're going to pay slightly more. So interestingly too here, I had a couple that were doing an apartment. They were just needing tiles. We're looking at floor tiles for the bathroom. It was not big. We needed something like 5-6 square meters. It was not a lot. And they looked at a tile and they was like, that one's 35. And, that one over there, that's like 40. We should probably get the 35. I'm like, hang on a second.
How much are you doing?
Start doing the math.
Which is your favorite?
Which is your favorite? And they're like, oh yeah, it's not that much.
It's only like 6 square meters,
It's cheap. And I mean, oh yeah, it is. So have the tile you want. But people don't think like that. They forget about what the end price is. Always ask, always get the price. But I like, for me, the apartment is the challenge. You want to maximize the space. You want to give it a great feel. But then it's also this wonderful opportunity to really have that really cool boutique stuff that you really like, because you don't need a lot of it. Right? So have fun with the kitchen. I think lighting's important in it. You've probably got a high ceiling. If you've got a high ceiling, you got to think about how that's going to be done. Window dressings become very important.
Causes problems. We got this beautiful wallpaper for it. But we had to get the wallpaper custom made because the drape was so long, which is great. But once again, who cares? Whatever.
But once again, you're only doing one area. You're not sitting there going, okay, so we've got to refurb the rumpus room. We've got to do the lounge, the dining area, and the entranceway. Who has the entranceway in the house? Well, a lot of 80s houses do have entranceways, that odd dead space that people transition through, but still costs a lot to fix up. So like it's for me, the apartments in the 90s are cool because you get to add a heck of a lot of soul to them, and they come with some really interesting things. They were built to be kind of homes. We hadn't, we not the shoe boxes, which a lot of the new builds became. I like them. I think they're fun. You end up with small terrace deckings. I remember we did a garden design for one that was in the Dilworth building.
That's a beautiful building.
Dilworth building. It was really cool. I should have bought it afterwards. I was offered it, but I said no because it didn't have a car park. I was an imbecile. It was super cool. It had like the concrete floors had all been ground and honed, and that was in the early days of doing that. Ooh, that looked amazing, kind of terrazzo looking. And it had like a core living area, and then the bedrooms were all sort of segmented off it, and they all had these big steel joinery. Oh, I should say it was on the interior in the courtyarded section. So it wasn't on the street looking out the view. I mean, there's not much of a view anyway, right? You're looking at other buildings. Whereas inside the courtyard, wow, that was just so un-New Zealand, right? That's what appealed to me. And I did these 2 rooftop gardens, which are on, the gravel that goes on the top of roofs to protect the waterproofing. It was those, and we did it with these cool big pots and stuff. Amazing. And it was wondrous. And I was like, so this apartment's got these 2 cool courtyard gardens. Yeah, other people could look onto those courtyard gardens, but they were yours. And who cares? I mean, that's awesome. Table and chair out there. But more than that is what you looked at from inside, out through these big windows. And I was like, they should have bought that. I think they wanted like $310,000, which was insanity for an apartment with no car parks. Why? Well, we all know why you would now, because that would have been a great place to live, and you could have maybe bought a car park, or they were probably cheap back then too. And I think they're actually worth money now, aren't they? Car parks worth money?
About for sure. Depending on where you are, you could go for 50 to 100.
Really?
I haven't been looking at car parks recently,
car parks
but I remember because mine came with a car park, and I was trying to work out how much could I lease the little jewelry store. Like, this is my mind thinking. When Kelsey wanted to buy the apartment, I was like, I can't really bank on a lot of capital gain out of this. If I decided that, whatever things are tough, I just need to rent it out. Or I can rent out the car park, I can rent out the jewelry store, and rent out the house.
But anyway, that's smart.
Well, that's how I approached it. Yeah, that was how I justified it to myself.
That's how you'll pay for the expensive bathroom.
Totally fine. But see, that's really good advice, right?
Yeah.
I've just taken that. That's a great idea. What is the worst case scenario with this? So rather than your mindset was not, if I get in trouble, I have to flick this, right? Your mindset was, how do I make it pay for itself?
Yeah.
Now that is a lesson for people that they need to learn when you're acquiring things, because the idea is not to keep getting rid of things. The idea is to, it might
wash
be
its face.
that I like that, wash its face. You might live in that apartment now for a bit. Then you might say, okay, we want a house. We're going to go and do something else. You might move to the house. You keep that, you rent it out. But then when you come back to it, you're probably going to want to renovate it.
Mate, we've done this.
Yeah.
So and we're really lucky at the moment. We're not doing it, but we've Airbnb'd it. And we've talked about, for the next one, if we need to, we can put a tenant in there to justify the rental income to help us to borrow for the next project,
There it
There's
is.
those options there.
And that's the land. You can think about that when you're actually developing the property as well, and what you're doing, if you, I guess because Airbnb, of course, is great, but it can be very hard on a property because you've got transition people coming through, whereas people who move in, put their furniture in, and they kind of look after their stuff. You know what I mean?
Although I got to say, if you're considering Airbnb versus rental,
what would you
do? You get a quick review of your property. It's like a property check. Every time someone checks in and checks out, if something's wrong, you'll know about it.
Yeah.
Right. My experience with using it as
Really,
Airbnb,
people always let you know.
to keep it way better than you'd ever have to keep it if it was a rental.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And it was interesting because I've done that in the past where I've actually rented properties and I've talked to the owner. They've known I've had it changed in the tenancy agreement that I was allowed to do Airbnb out of it. And, the concern is, it's going to get so much more wear and tear. But in practice, they get way less because you're having to get housekeeping to come through and look after it. And anytime anything's not quite right, the guest will complain and then you'll get it fixed. And then it's better than it was when you first took it over. That was our experience with the ones we did.
That's a great thing.
But also,
good takeaway.
My wife does property management on Waiheke, and so they manage Airbnbs effectively as well as long stay, like proper rentals. And she says to me, or I overhear the conversations, have they actually done the numbers on this? Because by the time you actually look at the numbers, it's more attractive to do it as a long-term rental in some cases.
Fantastic.
That's good.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it.
You mentioned earlier when you were sort of talking about we're actually off camera, we were walking here, and a lot of the conversation so far today has been about, renovating something from, maybe like a estate type house. And we've talked about, the new cool, both, that 70s and 80s and also those sort of character apartments. What about if we take a slightly different approach? And I know I've experienced this both as a salesperson and you get an owner who's bought a property. They've always sort of intended to do a renovation, but they've never actually done it. And they know it needs a bit of an update. And rather than selling it as is, they go, all right, we're going to give this one a bit of an update. But we're doing it. We're going to give it a zhuzh.
Yeah.
But with the intent of actually selling it.
Yeah.
And I guess you could approach this either for someone in that category or someone that's actually looking to buy something, do a zhuzh and flick it.
Yep.
A bit of a flip, if you will. What are the things that give the biggest rate of return in terms of time and effort and money, of course?
Get a landscaping business in. And by this, I mean some people who actually know plants and landscaping so they understand how things need to be trimmed and pruned and get onto it sooner rather than later, because if you cut some hedges back and stuff, they can look really woody for a while, but they can start to look a bit better. I get someone in to give it a full going over. Yep. Remove the dead stuff, tidy what's left there, remulch the garden, clean it up for me.
Yeah.
Get in there and do it properly, right? If the lawn's looking patchy, get them to reseed a bit of the grass, groom what you already own, right? If you've got pots that are sitting there, get them tidied up, get them to maybe supply you with some new plants that'll be in the pots that'll make it look good. The other thing is get the damn house washed. You should be doing it once a year, if not twice a year anyway. You might spend $500 to $600 on getting your house washed. Depends on your house, of course. Getting them to do the spoutings, gutters, the whole lot, the full Monty, right? Clean it all, clean all the paths, and pay someone, $1,500, $2,000 to come in for a day and take all the rubbish away and bring their team in just to clean it and groom it so you can actually see what you've got. The number of houses that I've done this to that I've turned up and gone, oh yeah. And then after day one, all the garden's been cleaned up and you go, oh yeah. Now there's some light getting into the bedroom windows. People will like that. Gee, the house actually is in good nick. Oh, look, the house is actually that pre-painted Hardy's board so it probably doesn't need to be painted again. And then whammo, it's washed. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
It's like getting a transformation.
It's like a brand new home. And then it's just getting rid of the junk. Get a skip, load it in the skip, get rid of it, completely get rid of it, you know? If you have one of those houses that has like, you know, a bit of storage in the ceiling, it's got a manhole, and people are going to look about it, talk about it because people like storage, you know, get some sheets of plywood and run them between the trusses, and people can put their suitcases up there like they used to do in the old days. People forget about all the stuff that we used to do in the old days. You know, like I don't know, it's about tidying what you've got. Go through it. If the showers and the bathrooms and the tiles are looking old, get a company like Grout Pro in to come and clean all the grout and clean all the showers down. You know, sure, it might not be the cheapest thing in the world if your shower is old and needs a lot of work, but it's a heck of a lot cheaper than like retiling or trying to rebuild things. Cleaning goes a long way. I have used proper commercial cleaners to come through my house before to come and do it. They do all the skirtings, and you can get these amazing little foam blocks which clean paintwork. You know, and
seen those.
And clean around the light switches. Something you mentioned, which was just exactly right, is get an electrician in and get them to change out all the dodgy looking light fittings to just plain white new ones, the most cost effective ones, but they're all done. And then they all match.
Cost much,
and they don't cost much, and they look good. Because when you walk into a room, what do you touch? Light switches. What else do you look at instinctively as you reach for them? Handles on doors. If the door handles are not great, you don't need to buy the most expensive ones in the world.
Just
get some new ones and do them all. And then suddenly it's got brand new door handles. It's got brand new light switches, and the house is washed and clean and tidy.
It's so interesting because you see the opposite.
It's so simple.
I've seen like a brand new carpet, brand new paint on the walls, the old door handles, and wait, hang on a second, it's got the old, almost slightly yellowy looking, with, by the way, some brush marks on the light switches.
We didn't take the cover off, we just painted around it. You know, there's a reason the cover pops off.
Exactly.
You can paint around it and it covers the
Or even the cover's not been put back.
Yes. Like, so these are simple little things, right? Simple basic repairs. If you've got a fence paling that's missing on your fence or that's broken, just get that one fixed. You know, stain an old yucky looking fence, stain it dark brown maybe rather than black. You know, everyone does black. I don't know. Play with it. Get in there. You want to buy some plants. Jump on Trade Me and find some plants that you can put in the ground to make it look a little bit more illustrious, particularly around entranceways and the presentation of the front of the property. Back of the property, not so much. I'd leave it alone. I'd just tidy it, you know, because people can do what they want out there. Put that giant trampoline that we all hate with the fencing around the outside that you need. You got to have it, right? I mean, what's happened to kids these days? How are you meant to fall through the springs and hurt yourself like the 80s? That was a good time. I say that, but that was, of course, very painful when it happened to you. And we should have safety for children now. No concrete underneath like the old. How do we survive? Barely.
Especially with the detergent and the hose.
It's the best time, right?
Absolutely.
But, you know, the front of the house, make the front of the house look great. You know how often I go to houses and the letterbox is rubbish?
Yes.
Like just some broken letterbox. I'm like, really? Hit my to 10 right now. Drop $150, put a sparkly new letterbox up with new letters and numbers. People see it.
It's the first impression. That's the
first impression. This is what, if it's down a right of way, make your letterbox look nice, clean, tidy, make things work. That's what I recommend. It's ridiculous, right? Cleaning, tidying, skip, throw away rubbish, and then have a look at what you're dealing with. And you're starting to look at some good stuff.
You mentioned front door as well.
Front door, paint your front door. Make your front door look good. Pay someone to paint it. If you can't paint, please pay someone. People always see front doors. It's your opportunity to personalize the house a little bit too. You know, maybe you've, the irony, people go, you know what I've always wanted? One of those really high gloss black front doors. I'm like, why haven't you got one? how many years have you wanted one? It's not that dear to actually, go and buy a cheap door, hologram door, put that in its place for now, like an internal door, not one that's going to last long term. That's going to mean your place is lockable. You get a shippy to come and do it. Send the big one away to be sprayed and then swap it back out again.
Yeah.
Get it professionally done. I think you'll get shocked with the fact that it's not crazy money to do some of these things. And it really does outdoor lighting.
Yes.
If you have outdoor lights, please make sure they have lamps in them, not bulbs. Bulbs grow in the garden. Lamps, okay. And don't light the garden from the house. So in the 80s, and they did this all the time, they would put those big black
the cone-shaped sensor.
All they do is shine in your eyes. So when you're standing there, you're going. So when Brian's standing on the bottom step of the deck at the barbecue having a beer, and he's trying to talk to Jim, who's on the top step, he can't actually see Jim. Jim can see Brian fine. He looks like he's
well
under interrogation. Yeah, you want to light the garden in the garden with pool lighting. Not you light the house vertically, both way, up and down, or top down, or however you want. You light the house, and then you light the garden, and then that pool ambient lighting through the area. That's comfortable for all. You don't need to floodlight the house.
What about lighting inside?
Lighting inside the house?
What rules?
Well, I would suggest that in this modern day, if you flick in the house, I would change your light fittings out if you've got older ones that require different types of lamps. And if any of you have those little pigtail things.
Oh, yeah.
Pigtail.
Thank goodness. Don't you worry. Don't even forget that I mentioned it. You got me, right? You understand it?
In the house,
we don't want to encourage the pigtail.
Yeah.
And I'm pleased you don't know what we're talking about.
I'm going to see a photo later.
You can Google. Sure. Yeah, we're going to put a pigtail photo up. Pigtail light. Yeah, terrible things. They're the swirly energy saver lights.
Oh, of course I know.
Pigtail. You know that.
Of course I
didn't want to trigger a bad memory for you.
They are rather horrible. Actually, and you know what? Like, even the LEDs I find, so we've got these like pear-shaped drop shades in our lounge. We've got a really high ceiling, dropping them down, and I had LEDs in there, and I've changed them out for the halogen, which is like a little bit more energy efficient than the incandescent, but it looks a lot more like the incandescent. There's just something better about that light to my eyes.
Well, that's the thing, and here's something where people go wrong. Lamps have like a warmth faction or that you need. So there's two types of light, right? You guys understand this, right? There's there's daylight, right? Or there's candlelight, and then there's everything in between. Now, at nighttime, if you've got lights inside your house that are there to mimic daylight, well, it feels like you're in a weirdly lit nightclub. It's really, really eerie. It doesn't work. We're keen on seeing that warm, nice candlelight inside. So get that right, because I've been to people's houses where I've walked in and gone, whoa, you guys have put the wrong lights in. You can fix that. This is like a hospital.
We face that when we go and shoot dusk, and then all of a sudden everything is staring at our face, and there's just sort of like the warm lights in one room, and then the daylights from the other rooms, and we're like,
everything's wrong.
Okay, this is going to be
challenging. So you want to get the right you want to get the right kind of lighting in the situation. So I mean, that's something. It's a trap that people fall into. They don't realize, and it's no fault. You just get the advice on it. But you're making sure there's decent task lighting in the kitchen. If it requires getting the sparky around to put a couple of extra lights in, do it. If you need new fittings, put them in. It'll be worth it for the presentation. If there's any window dressings that are broken and damaged, remove them completely and fill the holes and take everything down. You're better to have nothing than to have something that's terrible and rubbish. Just remove them. It's pretty straightforward. Most people are pretty happy these days, and they want to do something themselves with the window dressings. If you do need to put something in, you can just have put in roller blinds is what I would do, and just make sure they're back rolled, right? So they roll towards the window as the light comes inside. I don't know.
It's good, man.
Funny little thing.
Hamish, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your expertise and your humour. I love your perspective. Absolutely fantastic.
Guys, it's been fantastic, and all the best with the podcast. I think you're doing a great thing. Look, hopefully I get invited back again sometime.
Oh, no, absolutely, Hamish. And thanks for being here, first of all. But I reckon that we definitely need to get you back, because I think we can easily break this podcast into different sections of the house.
Yep.
Because, of course, you treat every single area of the house very differently in terms of, yes, you've got to cover the basics, but there are the nuances that you would need to add. And I feel like we can do a bigger, deep dive into the design aesthetics.
Yeah, room by room.
Amazing.
Love it. Ladies and gentlemen, Hamish Dodd.
Thanks, Hamish.
Cheers, guys.
Really appreciate it.
Mate.
Thank you, mate. That was awesome.